Okay, Jet fans, Darrell Revis.
Is off the board.
The New York Jets select
Mekhi Becton, Louisville.
You fired up to be a New York Jet?
Pressure just makes you go a little more. I kind of like pressure a little bit.
The New York Jets select.
Welcome to another episode of NFL Draft Preview presented by Verizon with the Athletics' Dane Brugler. We're talking cornerbacks, and up top we have two guys with NFL bloodlines, Patrick Surtain and Jaycee Horn. What makes them so special?
Well, I think the lead up in your question there, I think, summed it up. That's the common denominator is they both were groomed for this at a young age, growing up around the game. Patrick Surtain, his dad being a 3-time Pro Bowl corner, and a 5-star guy, goes to Alabama, and he starts from day one for Nick Saban. Did not shrink under the spotlight. So really just the opposite. SEC Defensive Player of the Year, 41 games played the last 3 years for the Tide. 4 touchdowns allowed. So he was a big-time player. And similar with Horn, he's a player that grew up around the game. There's a lot of expectations there, and he has lived up to them up to this point. The South Carolina coaches, they'll tell you the moment that Horn showed up in Columbia, he was part of the culture change. Not even part of it. He was leading the culture change there as a true freshman. The type of guy that's a team leader, on the field, long, agile, instinctive.
So it's safe to say that neither of those guys will be available when the Jets are on the clock at 23. So give us a couple guys that you think could be in play for the Jets, not only at 23, but also 34 as well.
Well, there's a few names here that are interesting. And let's start with Caleb Farley, because in my opinion, he's the most talented of this cornerback class in general. A high school quarterback, he moves to wide receiver at Virginia Tech. He moved to corner in 2018. The first game that he ever played at the position was the 2018 season opener, and he had 2 picks in that game. The next year, 2019, leads the ACC in passes defended, leads the team with 4 interceptions. He has special burst. The ball skills are very natural for a player still pretty new to the position. Length for days. He's 6'2", 33.5-inch arms. He's a top 10 talent in this draft. But the rub here is the injury history. ACL tear, 2 back procedures over his time at Virginia Tech. The most recent one will probably cut into his training camp. So there's some question marks there about just when he's going to be 100% again at some point this year, but we just don't know when. If you're not okay with Caleb Farley and the medicals, then I think your focus switches to maybe 2 players that could be high on the Jets wish list. Greg Newsom, an easy player to like because he's a route magnet. Corner out of Northwestern, fast, fluid, balanced. He has flashes of Kyle Fuller on his tape. The movement skills, the awareness for passing lanes, double-digit passes defended each of the last 2 years, high FBI, football intelligence. And then one other player I think is worth mentioning that could be a possibility there, that late first, early second, Asante Samuel Jr. Just like Patrick Surtain, just like Jaycee Horn, another son of an NFL Pro Bowler. And like his father, Asante Samuel, might be overlooked a little bit just because of his smallish frame, 5'10", 180 pounds, but he's a top-tier athlete, great feet, and just like his dad, outstanding reaction quickness. Ball awareness is outstanding. He can drive, make plays on the ball. You could argue he's in that conversation to be the best zone corner in this draft, and we know the Jets defense likely to be zone-heavy with what Coach Saleh likes to run.
All right, well, moving on now to round 3. Give us a player that you think could make sense for the Jets if they went to corner with either of their 2 third-round picks.
Well, you mentioned before how Robert Saleh and the size that we've seen at his prior stops in Seattle and San Francisco. Okay, let's go back to that, and a player who has size that could be a fit. Paulson Adebo out of Stanford, really intriguing player because he checks a lot of those boxes, what you're looking for. Size, okay, 6'1", 198 pounds. Speed, 4.44 in the 40-yard dash. 6'6", in a 3-cone, which is an elite number, especially for a guy that size. But what about ball production, okay? In 2 seasons as a starter at Stanford, 38 passes defended, 8 interceptions. Those facts alone is going to have teams interested.
You mentioned the depth of the cornerback class. How about a day 3 player that you think could make sense for the Jets?
Well, let's stick with the size at the position. Benjamin St. Juste from Minnesota. I think he's going to be very attractive to this coaching staff when you factor in the size, the athleticism. At this point in the draft, you're talking 4th round. Once you get into day 3, you bet on a guy with these type of traits: length, speed, competitiveness. I think he's going to go somewhere in those top 120 picks. And so I think he could be a guy on the Jets' radar.
That's all we have for this edition of NFL Draft Preview, presented by Verizon with the Athletics' Dane Brugler. Dane, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks, Ethan.